Okay, there's the recording bing.
There we go. So welcome everyone to getting started with CS First. Cami will put down that link to see the workshop that we have here in the presentation. But most of what we're doing is going to be live demoing. So you may want to have like a split screen or two screens going, or being able to know how to toggle back and forth between the slide deck and or what we're doing and being able to get into CS First, like in another tab. So just keeping that in mind as you go through. And of course, this is recorded, so you can always go back and forth, pause and play later on when you need to. And we're also going to give you a really cool resource that has everything step by step written for you as you go there. So first, I'm going to hand it over to Cami to introduce herself and what she's doing here.
All right, well, hello, everybody. My name is Cami Cannikins. I'm actually from Alberta, where we still have a little bit of daylight outside. It looks like most of you are, or lots of you are from Eastern time. So out here, I'm a teacher and instructional coach, and I do contract work along with John for the Cobblestone Collective, which is part of why we're here tonight. So John, that's me. Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan, and I'm over here in Milton, Ontario, sitting on Treaty 19. And so, yeah, right now we're just doing consulting work here. And during the day, I work as a Peel Board teacher with mathematics. So this fits right up my alley here. So before we get started, I just want to have a land acknowledgement, especially with last week being Truth and Reconciliation Week here in Canada. I do acknowledge the knowledge that has always been here, and I'm thankful for the partnership that I have formed and the learning that has passed on to me. I acknowledge the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Huron-Wendat, and the Ojibwa Chippewas people, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I know that the land is responsible for my healing and my mental health. I'm thankful for the Mississauga of the Credit for allowing me as a settler to be part of this land. I know that I have benefited from the land and that I occupy, and I continue to reflect on all my relationships between Indigenous colleagues and partners that I have formed. As we heard the hard truths a couple of weeks ago about the truth and reconciliation and reflected on the movement towards reconciliation, I do encourage all of us as settlers to reflect on the learning that we have done and to commit and what you need to commit towards reconciliation. So we are here because of Cobblestone Collective. And so that's the foundation that we are consulting with, and they come together bringing tons of great resources for you, being the CS First. And of course, we could not do this without our Google partners. CS First, so I want a big, huge shout out and thank you for the funding that is provided through CS First. So today, what we're really going to get down to is taking a look at what CS First is. We're going to learn how to create accounts. We're going to learn how to log in with our students because a couple things have changed with the CS First merge right into Google. And of course, we're going to take a look at the dashboard and then make an assignment and then open it up to questions and resources right at the end. So we're going to go take this slow. We're going to see how this goes and kind of go with that. But before we get started, can you let me know in the chat from like a 1 to 5, what is your comfortability with CS First? 1 being like, I'm brand new, I know absolutely nothing. You can even pick 0 if you wanted to. And 5 being, I'm the best expert out there. And Jonathan, can I take over and do this presentation? Awesome, a couple 2s, a couple 1s. I said I would turn this chat off, Cami, but...
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, I was going to tell you that there's lots of 1s and 2s, Jonathan, so lots of people that are just brand new to CS First. So this is the right place for you tonight. We are going to be all about getting started from the very, very basics.
Awesome. I did unlog my chat there. So, okay. So before we get started, there is everything we're saying here. Not only is it being recorded, but if you go to this this link right here, it will bring you to the Cobblestone Start Here with the CS First guide, and there is a slide deck for you that literally has everything that we're talking about. So if anything goes too fast or you wanted to kind of find this deck will tell you everything from signing in, from creating your first class, student accounts, student logins, adding things, adding everything that you need is all in this deck in Words, not only with the recording. So I just want to keep that in mind as we're going forward. And so you have this here. So we always have your back. We also, starting October 6th, have a great workshop, Let's Be Friends with CS First. It's going to be a co-taught lesson, and again, free. So you can sign up with your classroom, and you'll have one of us Googlers with you and one of us Cobblestone workers with us to teach your kids and you how to use CS First and work through it. So not only do we have the, how to log in, but we do have lessons that you can easily go through. And again, this is a free workshop, and all you have to do is hit the get tickets, and you can gladly get into there. So those two things are there for you to kind of make your way through that. So first of all, what is CS First? So CS First at first was the Google's coding platform that they basically put lessons and very units that you could just use with your students. What they've done now is kind of merged it within the Google Suite itself, and it's now become like Google's learning management system. So basically, it's the same platform, but now we can actually keep track of all our students' projects, both Scratch and what they do within the platform itself. So if they're actually doing their own, like if you had your students do their own coding projects, great. They can do it in there, and you can manage everything right from CS First, kind of like a Google Classroom, but for coding. So that's kind of like, yeah, it's a great way to kind of put everything together into one aspect. So how do I get there? And this is what I want you to do. We're going to go to CS First. So all you have to do is, Cami will probably put that into the chat there. You can click on that link, and you're going to go in, and this is what you'll probably see first because I've already signed in. And you're not going to pick student. Please don't pick students. You're going to go as a teacher. And there's a couple things here. So if you have if your board is a Google certified or a Google board, all you have to do is go in as a teacher, and it'll ask you to sign in with Google. If you don't have a Google account, what you're probably going to have to do is create your own Google account, like a private one through Gmail, and you can log in that way. So it is a Google application. So again, like this here says, this is the account I want to use because I have a Google board, but I can also use another account, in which way I can create my own account through Gmail. So I'm going to let you do that. So again, you're going to go to CS First. The link is there in the chat, and you're going to pick teacher. And when you get to, you may have to fill out a survey as well, just letting you know what you're doing it for. Some of you may already be here, but when you get there, please let me know in the chat. Just say done, I'm there, or something, just to let us know that you have accomplished this in your dashboard here.
Yeah, if it's the first time that you're logging in, you will probably have a short little survey. You can't really, you have to click through that. It's not very long, so you can just click through that. Sorry, Jonathan. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that, yeah. So you just go to CS First, log in as a teacher, and then you'll probably end up in your dashboard here, or you'll probably end up, sometimes it goes here. Either way, it's okay. Thank you, Patricia, you're done. Awesome. And for those of you who are pausing and playing as you go, just feel free to pause it, and we'll come back in a bit. So as I said, CS First allows you to see everything that's kind of here. And the nice thing about it is that it's doing it right here. It's showing you the Scratch, and Scratch is actually going to be built right in to the platform. No coding experience is needed. There's a lot of great activity. Oh, to split your screen. There's a couple ways of doing it, but in my screen at the top here, you'll notice that I have my little green button. So that's full if you don't have it. And then, so I always have like a slightly minimized, and then I can use my arrow to kind of show both on the same time. And so that way I can have both back and forth to go along. There is a fancy like command or shift, but I can never remember those shortcuts to split my screens. So I apologize. The easiest way is just to slightly minimize and then move yours back and forth. Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. And Aaron, you're done. Hopefully I haven't lost too many people who are just logging in. And like I said, it's there. So I'll call you back in a Awesome, Melissa, it's all set. And I realize as I have it, I have all my my codes. So by all means, you can come join my classes if you need to.
One thing we could mention, Jonathan, is it is possible that your board, maybe I was just, there's Michael unable to get in. Some boards have not allowed the CS First, they haven't turned on CS First back in the admin panel. And that happened in about February when there was a big change in CS First. So I'm not able to get into with my school account either, Michael. So if you have a personal Gmail account, you will be able to create a CS First account over there, and then you can play around and do all the steps. So if you're not able to get in with your school account, it's worth trying with a Gmail. Yeah, Andrea, same thing. So me too. So I'm going to pop some more links in there for some of you that are just joining us. If you can't get in with your school account, try a Gmail.
Yeah, so for those of you just joining, just go to csfirst.withgoogle.com. And Cammie's going to put that into the chat there, and you're going to log in with either a Google account, well, a Google account from your board, or you're going to make your own Google account, and then you can log in that way. The same goes if you're a Microsoft board. Don't worry about your student side of it. I will show you how to get around the student side of it, and then yeah, you can connect with Google Classroom. That's the way that I'm going to show you right now. So. Don't go too far ahead of me if you're brand new, but if you're not and you can fiddle things around, go for it. So this is, so if everyone wants to come back, and then I'll give you a chance to, or if you want to do it simultaneously while you're listening, but I'm just going to bring you back to the screen here, and then I'll kind of showcase, this is your dashboard. And so just like a Google Classroom, you have everything that you would, like all the different classes that you have. So I have a whole bunch of classes, test classes, and of course my daughter's daddy class that she's never joined. But you know, it's there for her just in case. And so what I did to do that, and we'll give you time to create that, you'll see this little plus sign here in the top corner, top left-hand corner, underneath the CS First sign. That plus sign allows you to have that create class, join a class, and you also have this new project. And so that's kind of new to the CS First realm, because now Scratch is built into CS First itself. So if you're playing around with your own like Scratch stuff and you wanted to create your own like CS First stuff, that's where the new project goes. And so this is just for you as you play with it. So that's in that plus sign, that create join. And join would be if I wanted to say Cammie was teaching a class and I was one of her support teachers, I can join her class, or she can join my class as a support teacher just by clicking on the code that's given to the students. You'll also find in here the classes, which is what we're at. You'll also find at the top corner curriculum, resources, and the about page. So curriculum is where you'll find all the units that CS First has created. And so CS First has created tons of hands-on units, which I love because it not only are the units there, but there's videos for all the students to follow. And we'll get that later on at the end when we pick our units. But you can see if I was to start this one here, there's actual videos for the kids to listen to. So I don't even have to know anything about CS First. The unit will teach it, and I say, hey kids, go ahead, right? And right at the end, it even tells you the code. Whoops, I went full screen instead. It'll tell you the code that needs to be, it tells you every instruction, what to do next. And so it's a really cool way of looking at units, and there's tons of units to go through here that take 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours. Some of them are 8-hour units, but they're all self-paced as they go along.
And Jonathan, you said something that I think is just so important, and that is that you as a teacher do not need to know how to code. You don't need any experience at all. These units are so student friendly and well made that you can assign them to your students and learn along with them, but they also have a great answer key, lesson plans, all the things. So you don't have to worry about not having coding experience yourself. CS First really takes good care of you that way.
Yeah. And they even give you the resources too, right? So if there's any resources in here about learning things, oh, how do I do this with distance learning, right? and how do I move with various things, startup guide, class roster. So if you ever get lost with anything too, there's also like other resources inside of CS First to help you with it. There's also specific themes that connect to curriculum and so on. So that's the buttons that are around here. So again, I'm just going to review the buttons. The plus sign is where you can create, join, and new project. CS stands for computer science. And then curriculum, resources, and the about section of your page. And then there's also down below your projects. This is where you find your projects. And then your profile, which is your like username and various things. So that's your dashboard itself. Is there any questions around that dashboard? Just the layout of what the dashboard looks like. See where we go.
You might not have, Jonathan has those tiles in the middle, those kind of pastel colors. You won't likely have any of those yet if this is your first time. Those are the classes or the sessions, and we'll be making some of those today.
Yeah. And with Ontario coding now, so my experience is definitely in Ontario. I know we're all over the place. You can use these lessons from like kindergarten if you really wanted to, all the way into high school. Even though the videos are very elementary in based, doesn't mean that you can't use some of these into grade 9, 10, 11, 12. And I have learning goals for those if you ever needed to. Okay, so we're gonna set up our first class. Now, hopefully, I'm gonna test your skill knowledge here. What button do I have to hit to create a class? You can let me know in the chat or where it goes. What button do I have to hit on my screen? Yeah, the big giant plus sign. Okay, so when I'm in here, I'm gonna create a class. Now, there's a couple things that you'll notice inside of this section here. I'm gonna have to name a class. This is why I have like test 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can choose various colors that go with it. And then there is 2 different ways of looking at things. So the first one is Google Workspace for Education. So you're gonna pick this one if your board has opened up Google and allowed your kids, like all your kids have Google accounts. You have a classroom roster that's connected with it. So I know there was a question before about connecting it to your roster. This is what you're going to click on. And then if you don't, say you're creating it with your own personal email, you want to kind of use the CS First accounts. The reason why CS First accounts are so important is because CS First actually creates blank passwords for kids to use, so that that way it's all private and everything is contained within itself. So they'll get their own private username, their own private password, and their usernames are something like CS12346778, and that way there's no way around like knowing who is doing what. Whereas the Google one, it'll be whatever your school board has named those kids. So I'm going to do the Google one first, just to show you what happens. So I'm going to click on Create. Hopefully the internet works with me. Now it's created my class and it's giving me this code. And that's the code that I would put in my Google Classroom or copy this to the URL. I can also add inside of here, there's like, oh, there's no students. Okay, well, there's a couple ways. They can sign in with their Google accounts and away they go. Whereas if I was to go back and do the CS First one, it's again, very similar. So there's that code again. But if I was to copy this URL and put it in here, it's going to ask me now. Whoop, I apologize. My incognito remembers me. So now it's going to say, okay, I need to enter my username and password. Well, wait a minute, my teacher hasn't given to me, but it's okay, because down below it says create an account, right? So this is for your students with CS First. I'm going to create an account. And now it says, okay, I need to create an account. I understand. What are all the traffic lights? Because I'm not a robot. And here's my username. Here's my password. I wrote my username. This is the important part that I tell my kids. I'm like, did you actually follow this? Right? I wrote this down and told my teacher what my user, and then so I click on that and I wrote it down, right? It's okay if they forget their passwords. You can reset that on the back end, and I'll show you that later. But basically, that's created an account to that class now.
You
So
know,
again,
Jonathan,
all I did was.
I was going to
Sorry,
say, I
Tammy.
noticed the other day that they also, there's a new step where they prompt you to send a CSV file to yourself, which has like, so you type the kids' names in and then it has their username and password. So in the old version, you couldn't do that ahead of time. And so your kids were always anonymous. This gives it a little bit more linking to whose kid has which password. So that's been a nice improvement.
Yeah. So again, all I did was I went to the plus sign, I hit create, and you can choose the options that you want to do, either CS First or the Google workspace. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. For younger kids that don't have email, the easiest one would probably be like, I'm just trying
If
to
they
think
can
here.
log in with, if they can log in with Google, like if your board isn't blocked, Elizabeth, and they can log in with Google, it just kind of takes care of all that for them. I know in my board, our students have an email address that they use to log in to Google with, but it's not an actual, they can't actually email with it. So depending on what it means to not have an email, it can depend how we might answer that.
I do believe you can add your own students to, if I'm not. The CS First is probably the easiest way to add students in. Then if you're having a hard time with it, I would probably say the CS First way of doing it versus the Google way of doing it, because that way you can, when you're inside your CS First, like you can log in 25 times to have that put in. And so that way I just log in and I get the codes and I write them down for my kids.
One thing we should mention about that method too, Jonathan, of the like logging in without the Google part, is that the information saves on your computer, on your actual like physical computer browser. So if you're using that to log in with just the passwords as opposed to going through the Google login, it's very computer based. So whatever, if you're on a desktop or a laptop, that's where that will live. So that's an important part to remember there too.
No, Andrea, students don't need an they don't need an email address. So if you have no email address for them, what I would recommend doing is the CS First method. So again, what I did is I went to, when I'm in my dashboard and I'm going to create a class, I create a class and I go to CS First accounts. So that one is going to prompt my students to then say, create an account, or you can create the account for them and just have to do it over and over and over again. So no email is needed. This is probably the best option for most things. I just use this one for when my kids, like in Peel, they have Google accounts, and if they're old enough, it's just easy because it's literally, here's the link, sign in, kids, like just join, and away they go, and that way they can get in. CS First is not connected like per se to Google Classroom itself. So what you may have to do is say, please go check out the CS First platform. They're two different learning management systems, but you can give them a link to where you need to go, and then they'll be able to counteract that. That's there. The CS First is definitely the more secured page. Yeah. Sorry, Cami.
I was going to say on the back side, the Google part is also very secure, because when you log in with the Google way, then you're in Scratch with CS First. So it's a special Scratch CS First environment. And when they log in just with the passwords, then they're in just Scratch with the whole world. They're anonymous. So there is, on the Scratch side, the Google way might be a little bit more secure too.
Well, everything is now in here. So Scratch is all built inside. They don't go outside of the platform. So everything is into CS First itself. So Michael, for students, you will either give them the password to log in. So again, when I went to sign into my account as a student, I was able to, it'll say create an account, and I was able to create the password that is for this classroom, or you create it and just tell the students what that password is, and so they'll have a login that way. So define students. So that's the next section. I just want to make sure everyone has a class already created. So if you can let me know if you have a class done, and then I'll move on to the next part of showing you what the class actually looks like. So I'm just seeing how everyone's doing. Awesome. So far you have done your dashboard, you've created your class, now you're inside of here and you've created your own individual class that you love to call your own, and various things that are there. Yeah, no students, it's fine. I can even show you how, if you wanted to log in as a student, you can actually log into mine and you can see what that looks like. I can even plop that into the chat if you wanted to test out what that process looks like. I don't mind you joining this class. So that's what I would do for my students. I would literally give them the code and be like, here you go, log into that and let me know what happens. And the first thing that pops up is often telling you, do you have a username and password? And it's like, well, no, I don't. So away you go. Yeah, Maha, you can import your students right from Google Classroom, which is great if you go through the Google way. And then if not, it's fine. Okay, so it looks like everyone has a class, which is great. Come on back to the screen if you haven't, or if you split it, awesome. So now that you'll probably have one little color box that's here, which is great. I have a whole bunch now. And so when I go inside of my class, it looks very similar to what you may have noticed if you're used to CS First. Again, the name of your class is here. You can always change that name and the color that you want to associate it with. And then you can just save whatever's there and it will change it for you. It will tell you how many students are actually signed in at the moment as well. Not just how many students you have in the class, but how many are actually live. So you can actually see that my student is signed in at the moment, which is amazing. And you can actually see the people that are here. Now, this particular account is the one that is assigned to CS First. So you'll notice that there is no name. I can put a name on it, but it is done with this particular computer. So if I went to another computer, I would not see the names again. It's only on this device that my name is saved here. It has the username 873. So if a kid comes to you and says, sir or ma'am, or your names, I lost my password, I don't know what my user, you're like, okay, well, what was your username? I may have to look it up, or I may have to rely on them. You remember it said in there that did you write it down? But you're like, oh, okay. It also tells you what they're working on. So right now my student's not working on anything, but if there was a unit, it would say, oh, animate your name. It would tell them what they're working on. But in the 3 Timbits that are here, you can actually remove the student or reset the password. So you can reset passwords for various things. And there we go. I can actually add students. Why was that button not there? Things that pop up as you go. So you can add students, so you can create and download that roster. So if you want for your kindies, you can create your own. So I want to create an extra 10 accounts. I can download that, and now I have my CS First CSV file for all the students. And so now you can tell your students what numbers they are. So, okay, I'm going to assign Cami 19. I'm going to give Michael, and there's the passwords. I'm going to give Michael number 57. I'm going to give Maha number 190, various things like that. No, they can't see their work. So this is unless they shared their password. This is just for you to kind of go around. Okay, so again, that's your title there, your class code, units are here. We'll get that to in a minute. And then the people, and you can add students that way. Is there any questions in the chat there, Cami, about this particular section of our...
Yeah, and so I'll just repeat some of these because maybe others will have it. Monica asks if she connects with Google Classroom, will their name always show?
I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah, that would be one of the reasons why you would connect with Google Classroom, because Google Classroom is it's a what's the word? It's a solid thing that's always there. So that connection is that's a way to really keep your kids there. When you use one of the other ways, it can be a little harder to match up the kid with the password with the username.
Yeah, and you'll notice that, so this is the one that says students with G. So this is the one with the G, with the Google. And you'll notice that there's no like add student button. The only way I can do it is for students to add into my, to come through the code that's here. And so they could go to CS First, log in, and as a student, it'll say, what's your code? And you can go from there.
And Jonathan, Michael's asking about how to connect with Google Classroom. Do you want to maybe just scroll down and show that again? When you first sign up or when you first create a new account in class, it asks if you want to connect your classes. But if you've missed that, you can always come and do it later. John will show that for us here.
So that's the one with Google. And then sign in with Google. They have to just sign in with Google. Now, there's also like on my dashboard, because I don't have this with this account, I don't have it attached, but there's an actual button that says, it'll be over here. It says, do you want to add, import, thanks, Monica. There's a button that says import from Google Classroom. I just don't have it on mine because I don't have Google Classroom turned on for this account. But there's a button that'll say it. And it's pretty, it's pretty evident when you open it up that way, and work with it. Okay, so to see their work, this is the next. Make everything the same color. Same color. It always gets me. So we're now going to think about the units that are there for us to kind of play around, and I'm going to show you what those units kind of are and how to get started. So there's a couple ways to add units. The first way, the easiest way, is once you're in your classroom. So again, all I did is I went from my dashboard. I see all the classes I've done. I go to the actual class. I click on it. I'm back in my class dashboard. So the difference between the two dashboards is that you will have in your overall dashboard, you'll have all the classes that are in here. And in this one, you have a specific one that's there. And I'm just going to go to the add units. Now, no matter what one you chose, whether it was with Google or with CS First, this button is always the same. Yeah, you can have more than one classroom linked up. So I'm going to add units, and it brings me to the curriculum page. So the first one that I love is just hit that, or you can go to curriculum. They do the same thing. So either I go to curriculum or I go to add units. And here's where I find all my units that are kind of going on. And you'll notice that once I'm logged in here, I now have either view or I have add to class. So if I want characterization added to class, I can just add the class, and up comes, just like if you're used to your Google Classroom, you can add it to multiple classes. Some of them have already been added to it, or I can add it just to one. I can even create a brand new class because that's what we all want to do right now. And you can add class, and then it's right there. If I wanted to see what the curriculum was, it'll come back to it. So the lessons that are here, characterization is about building two characters and telling a story. You can make interactive presentations, learning how to have dialogue between two people, creating narrations to stories. So I use this a lot when I'm talking about cultural stories, and they have to narrate things that are going on, or I have students, especially my ESL students, who are speaking their own language, and then I have someone else try to translate it as a narration. So they have to learn to communicate back and forth. Learning speech and language with figurative language. And then you have other ones that are in here as well. Animate Your Name is one that I always start my year off, because it's great to see this kid's identities and stories come to life with Animate Your Name. And then the Create Your Own Google logo. And then the one that we're on October 6th that we're doing is called the Friends. So if you wanted to add that to your class, you can go ahead. So right now, I just want you to kind of explore the various ones that you may want to try and add one to your class. Now, if you have a real class, all your kids will see the one that you have added. So just keep that in mind, that if you have added kids to it, they're going to be like, whoa, what's this, tomorrow morning or even now. So all you have to do is hit that add to class and add it to your class. And then I'll show you everything else afterwards. Yeah, you can modify some of the projects a little bit, but not like to the extent of, so what I do is I tell the kids to modify the learning in the final project, but the whole steps will be there. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, Andrea.
And there's lots of add-ons. So there's like the basic project with the first, kind of a few steps. And then because we know our kids will be such different paces, there's always several add-ons. So they do, the basic project, and then they have a choice of 3 or 6 or 8 different things that they could do in addition. So some kids might only get through the basic starter part, but then you might have others that can do all the others. So that, I would say that really is one of the ways that I use as the modifiers is the add-ons that they have at the end.
So again, just to add that, you don't have to go back, just letting everyone know how to do it again. All you did was you went to your classroom, you clicked on that plus sign to add units, or you went to the curriculum, and now you're just kind of scrolling, trying to find a unit that you want and hit that button that says add to class. If you want to let me know in the chat, once you've done that, I can kind of show you what those units would look like for your students. Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks, Kimberly. So Kimberly says, when you create the assignment, you can schedule the activity so it doesn't show up to students until you want it to. Oh, in Google Classroom. Yeah, so in CS First, it just shows up. I have not hit a limit. Have you ever hit a limit, Cami, on how many students are in your class?
No, I've never really tried more than about 50, I think is the biggest group I've probably had. I'll see if I can probably find out the number.
It's probably 999 or something like that. Awesome. We have a couple of people done. They've added theirs. I'm just trying to see how many students I can add here. 100, as many 100 accounts at a time, at least, which means though that if I've already had some in here, I can add more than 100. But I never hit a limit. So we'll see where that goes. Awesome. So it looks like everyone has a unit in their classroom, and this is what it kind of looks like. So if you want to come back to the dashboard or back to the screen, I can show you. Thank you, Elizabeth. I can show you kind of what's there and what you're seeing now on the back end of things. So this is what the students would see. So in here, they're going to see the exact same thing. They're going to have a new project, or they're going to have their current units. I'm going to refresh because a whole bunch of stuff came in. So they're going to see, oh, I got characterization. Awesome. And so what you'll say to them is, I want you to start that lesson. So they're going to start it. And you'll see right away, as soon as you start that lesson, they have a video, and I won't have the sound on, but the video will tell them what to do. And this is a Googler, YouTube Creator Manager. And then it'll be like, wait, right to the end, it'll be like, okay, now I want you to click the next button. So the student's like, okay, next button. Characterization. How do I get characterization going? So she's going to tell you all the things that are happening and what they actually need to do. So all the learning goals, everything that's kind of going on. Oh, I need to hit the starter project. So I'm going to hit the starter project. And so now it opens up CS First, Scratch for CS First. Now, for the students who are familiar with CS First, or if you're or for Scratch, it's going to look exactly the same thing. The only difference, though, is that this is Scratch for CS First. So this is not saved inside of Scratch's like housing or cloud storage or anywhere. They can't log into their own Scratch accounts. They're logged into a specific Scratch for CS First. So that's what's nice about CS First now, is that it's contained within inside of that. But all the other same principles work. So if I was to find my sprite, I can click on any sprite that I want. I can code just by drag and dropping. Now, I know some of you might be like, whoa, Jonathan, you went too fast. It's okay. I'm not trying to show you how to code right now. I just want to show you what the students are going to have. And then just so that you can see it later on. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back to my dashboard that's in here. And so actually, I'm going to see if I can submit.
While you're doing that, Jonathan, I'll just mention that one of the main differences, if you did use CS First before about February of this year, if you've used it in the past, previously in CS First, the students could share projects and send a link, and then you could click on someone else's link and see each other's project, and that is been taken away for safety reasons. So that's, if you've used CS First, like a year or two ago, that part of Scratch is what's been improved in safety, that they're not just in that Scratch universe with links and other people. It's a very, very safe environment just within your own classroom.
Yeah. And so what I did was I went through the as a student, I went through quickly because I always wanted to show you that. So now that inside of my units, I can see that this one person is about 50 to 60% of their project is done. And really quickly, just by looking at the graph, I can tell how many of my students are where they're at. And then if I want to see like, oh, what videos were being watched, I can actually see who's watched what video. So like number 873, now if you're in Google, it would have their names. Oh, has watched 50% of the videos. They've done 3 of the 4 activities, and they've done 1 of the 4 activities here. I can see what projects have been submitted. So, 873, they've submitted this project. And so now I can open it up and I can see the kids' project. What did they do? I can offer feedback if I needed to. So the nice thing is that I can add comments. So to add comments, I just right click and I have notes that I can add. So I can add that comment and it's still back in with the students, which is really cool process to it. And you'll notice that 240 hasn't done anything. So again, all that was once you're in your class, I can click on the projects that are submitted or the videos that are watched, and you can see everything that's there. If I wanted to figure out what's left, I can go video and view materials. And I know someone else asked about the people and like, oh, what are they working on? Well, you'll notice here's 873. Oh, they're working on characterization. It actually shows me what they're working on. But it also has this button here, which shows me other projects that they may have. So say my students started a brand new Scratch project on their own. Realize that's in Spanish. They started their own projects, like their own Scratch project because they're having fun doing whatever. I will be able to see, well, I'm in a different kid now. I would be able to see their project show up. I can see every single thing that they are doing or have been doing inside of Scratch. So that's a really cool component of your class list, and you can easily go with that. As far as the videos, as Cami said, that each video has its own like add-on, so they can take the basic and then they can learn how to do more. Everything kind of goes with the flow that's there.
John,
Any questions?
Earlier we had a question about whether kids can see each other's work.
Yeah, so kids can't see each other's work.
So the only
unless
way
they're like, hey, look at my.
Yeah, or if they're actually, if you're, that was the nice thing about when we were virtual, or maybe you're still virtual, but a student would have to physically have their code up on the class or their Scratch project up on the screen, and then they could screen share in a Google Meet, but it's really that physical. It's not, you can't send a link for someone else to click on. You like John said, you physically have to say, look at my screen. That that's the only way that they can see it. And then the other thing was, maybe it was Michael, I can't remember before, someone was asking about, you've given us that great tour of the dashboard, and someone was asking if they can assess and view from within Google Classroom. But hopefully you can see now the dashboard in CS First is so robust, you can see how that is a totally separate dashboard. And so while you can assign to Google Classroom, you actually watch the units or the student's progress within the CS First dashboard. So you do need to come in there as well.
Yeah, and students can load and save to their computer as well. So you can load this file as a Scratch, and then kids will have to upload it that way. So that it's a little harder to save, but that's really the only way of seeing it. Patricia, I don't know why that should be there if you did it and it was in the class that you just did it. So it should be attached, but you may have to refresh, or it might be in another class that's happening. So hopefully it's all there. So if there's no more questions, I do have a couple. I do have one more thing to show you. Actually, a couple things to show you. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I haven't assigned it, but so the other cool thing about CS First is that they have actually aligned everything with the Ontario curriculum, and so you can find that in the resource section. You can find all the alignments from grade 1 or grade 3 all the way up to grade 8. They haven't done it yet for the primary grades, though it might be started, and it hasn't really worked into the high school, though. I would say anything that you have inside of the CS First works perfectly for anything in grade 9, 10 coding curriculum that's coming up. But the really cool thing is this this coding terms explained. And so, you know, I know a lot of us are really anxious about coding and understanding what like every term is happening. And so Googlers, along with Cobblestone, have created this coding terms for us to kind of help teachers to understand what's happening, and students. The cool thing about it, so like say I'm, you know, one that really looped me for a bit was the conditional statements. And I was kind of like, oh, what are those? And so you can go in here and learn what a conditional statement is. But even better, I can click on the images that are here, and it opens up a Scratch, not a CS First Scratch, but a Scratch program that I can see inside that tells me exactly what a conditional statement is, what parts of my program or the program that's here was a conditional statement. And so I can actually learn what these terms mean so I can teach kids. Or I can hand this document to the kids and be like, hey, this is awesome. You can learn about everything that's here. And it goes all the way up to some of the analyzing data, some of the more sophisticated, even to the beginnings of like, what is a sequential event? And so it's a really great way to help students understand the block-based coding and work through it. Scratch is the only program that, yes, that CS First supports. I do not know yet about Python, though I would highly want to recommend it to be working in Python, or even at least into Java and flipping that. But right now, it's only that CS First that's there. CS First also has unplugged coding activities that you can try with your students as well. So you can get them started with the unplugged coding activities. And then I found some more unplugged work that if you wanted to work with your students as well, that's through there. So again, I know there's 10 minutes left, but I just want to leave that 10 minutes with tons of questions and how things go. But I do want to say a big shout out again. Thank you to CS First and Google to let us in there. So I know I went kind of a whirlwind near the end there, but what questions do we have? The unplugged are in the deck. I lost my, Kami's internet went down, so I will copy that and put it in here for you. There you go. That's the unplugged. And the curriculum alignment you'll find in the resource section of your dashboard. And it is at the bottom, I believe. Oh, I have to find it again. It's in the resources, I know that for sure. I just have to find it again. But there is a whole link for it. Yeah, so Aaron, if you don't have a lot of computers, what I've done is I've used this as I like to set up things and see where it kind of goes. I've done it as centers in the room. So I've said, okay, we're going to work on this for 20 minutes, and then tomorrow another one is going to be 20 minutes and work from there. And yeah, Andrea, share that Google CS First terms all you want. It is meant for you to be sharing as much as possible. Any other questions? Do we need to take extra steps to receive this recording? No, if you signed up for this workshop, that will be emailed out to you probably by the end of sometime tomorrow for the recording. And I do want to remind you that we do have the CS First guide as well. So if you go to the Cobblestone, I'll put that into here as well. That will bring you up to the deck page to getting started with CS First, and you can download the copy both for Microsoft and there's the curriculum alignments as well. So they're there for you, and the coding terms explained. Everything is right there. There's even a student guide that has all the slides as well. So if students are having trouble, they can log in and learn that way as well. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm glad that you have enjoyed everything that's here. So I know it's a night for most of us, and in some ways, some of you are all over the place, but hopefully you've enjoyed some of the things that are here. If there's any other questions inside of for CS First, please let me know. Sorry, I'm just checking up the Andrew, you had a question. Can we share with this via CS First? Do you mean the links or the work? I don't know. Aaron, at the moment, there is nothing in French, but the nice thing is that I do believe you can switch the languages. So anything, I know you can switch in regular Scratch. Yeah, so if you go to the world, you can switch everything to French. So all of a sudden my languages now become, everything in the coding becomes French. So I've taught my students in my French immersion classes and coached with them to be working with the French versions, and they can go back and forth within it. Oh, the terms, yeah, you can share that anywhere you want, yeah. No, you can't share the terms in the CS First. You'll probably have to share that with because it's an external, there's no PDF way of changing that, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
Jonathan,
I can share.
I don't know if you missed me, but I'm back.
I did miss you.
Okay, so just so you know, I've lost the chat, so I've missed all the questions and everything. So I will put those links back in there. I'm back.
So here is the curriculum, and here is the PDF of the terms that are there. Yeah, Aaron, the language is directly in Scratch. So when the kids are in Scratch for CS First, they click on the globe, and they can change their languages to anything that's here. So Dutch, English, Spanish, French, and Italian. In real CS First, there's a lot more languages that they can switch to, which is actually kind of cool. Like I can switch it to Kurdi. Now it's not the greatest translations. They're just direct Google translations, but I think still pretty cool that it's there for them. So that's how I often do the French version, various things that are there. Before you leave, I do want to, there's an evaluation link that will be put there, as well as we are always here to support you. So if you have questions, help@cobblestonecollective.ca. And of course, this deck is here at thecc.page/CSFirstStart. There's about 5 minutes left. I'm glad that everything's been super helpful. Thank you, everyone. If you want, we can stop the recording. And if you want to, we'll stay on a little longer too. If you have anything specific or you want to unmute yourself and talk, feel free to. I'll let Cami stop it.